The contract looked simple, nothing more than a missing science team on the edge of Vorton space. A human outpost had gone dark. No distress signals, no emergency beacons, just silence across all bands, and channels, the perfect kind of job for the Brokkar warband, known across the fringe for cleaning up problems fast and loud. With plasma and fire, they laughed when they saw the bounty high enough to fund 5 cycles of war, but labeled low risk, which in mercenary terms meant it was too easy to be fun, and too rich to turn down. They geared up with their usual swagger, plating their armor in blood red and silver painting, kill counts across their gauntlets, and making bets on how many humans they would have to kill before the job was done. No one believed the rumors that came out of the first scouting team's ghost stories, mostly whispers about Terran ghosts or shadow men or quiet death. The Brokkar mocked the idea that any species without claws or horns or neuroshock breath could scare a warband that had fought the shellworms of Vex Prime and stood in the acid storms of Hernak IV. They came in fast from orbit, black dropships streaking through the atmosphere with a sound like cracking bones, touched down on the plateau just outside the human camp, and found the base untouched, everything still, powered lights flickering slightly, as if something had drained the energy recently, but the doors were sealed, and there was no sign of a fight, no plasma scoring, no blood, no gear left behind. It looked like the humans had simply walked out into the void and vanished. The commander, a scared veteran named Thrask, ordered a sweep: Team 1 to the comms tower, Team 2 to the dorms. He and his honor guard moved toward the main lab. All channels were open, all eyes watching feeds and scans. But 5 minutes into the sweep, one of the Brokkar vanished off comms. No scream, no alert, just gone. His suit beacon went dead, and his vitals dropped flat. No spike, no trauma, just erased. The squad thought it was a glitch until another vanished, then another, both from Team 2 and the dorm wing. Thrask ordered a fallback, regroup at the dropships, and reassign search patterns. But no one responded from Team 2. No footage recovered, only static and the sound of wind moving through metal like breath. Then they found it in the mess hall, etched into the steel floor, burned deep by some kind of directed heat weapon, were 5 words, crude and jagged but unmistakable. "You should not have come." They called for evac, but the sky was dark. The dropships were disabled before the order was finished, carved into their hulls. The same message in the same angry line. One Brokkar, panicked, fired into the shadows and was met with silence. No screams, no retaliation, just silence. Then the lights died across the base, and the shadows moved, and the Brokkar warband learned that silence was a weapon, and they had walked into the hands of something they did not understand. They landed at dusk, the sky over Krylosphore, painted in long orange streaks, the twin suns hanging low like watching eyes, as if the world itself was waiting to see who would survive. The human base stood silent like a tomb, walls still intact, no visible damage. No signs of struggle, the kind of stillness that felt wrong in the bones, as if something had pressed pause on the entire place. Thrask had ordered a standard recon pattern: eyes up, guns ready, split into fire teams, and watch your corners. But already some of the Brokkar were uneasy. One claimed he heard footsteps behind him, even though there was nothing on scans. Another saw a flicker of motion in a hallway, only to find it empty when he reached it. The first real sign came when they found the outpost commander's log still intact, still recording, and still running even though the date was 3 cycles old. It played a single loop of his last message to Earth, his voice ragged, tired, desperate. He said they had dug too deep into something old, something buried in the planet's crust, and something was now watching them. And then the message cut out, replaced by static, and something under the static breathing, soft and slow, but clearly not human. Thrask told them to stay sharp, but the air was thick, heavy, like the planet was pressing down on them, and every hallway seemed to stretch just a little too far, and every corner seemed to whisper their names. And then the vanguard disappeared, 3 elite Brokkar warriors moving through the east wing, clean comms, tight formation, and then nothing. Their vitals blinked out one by one. No screams, no gunfire, no signs of attack, just silence and empty air. The rest of the warband converged on the east wing, and found only the weapons of their fallen left in perfect rows, as if placed there carefully, deliberately. Their suits were gone, no blood, no scorch marks, and along the wall was written a phrase in Terran script painted with something dark and thick and pulsing, almost alive. It said, "We warned you once." Panic set in. One Brockar opened fire down a dark hallway. Others began scanning each other for parasites or cloakers. But the scans showed nothing, no heat, no life, no enemies, just shadows and echoes. And fear. Thrask tried to rally them, barked orders with the voice of a warlord, but even he began to falter when one of his own guards turned to speak, and then simply fell backward, helmet cracked from the inside out, with no sign of force or weapon, just a small whisper echoing from his open mouth, repeating the same word over and over: "Run." The Brockar retreated toward the landing zone, trying to regroup, call for backup, launch the ships. But the ships were no longer where they had landed. The landing gear was still there, crushed into the dirt, but the ships themselves were gone, like they had been lifted clean off the surface and vanished, without heat trail, without energy spike, without logic. They were stranded, they were hunted, and the worst part was that no one had seen a single human face. On Grith Station, the next mercenary crew was smarter, colder, better equipped. They were the Draxon Scales veterans of station sieges and reactor wars, known for never losing a boarding up and for burning entire moons. When things got too complicated, they took the job not for money but for pride, because they had heard what happened to the Brockar and refused to believe it. The Scales did not believe in ghosts, only in targets, and they came in with fire and iron and data. The station was dark, the atmosphere thin and cold, with frost creeping along the bulkheads. The human presence was supposed to be minimal, only researchers and a single detachment of Terran special forces, and yet there were no bodies, no blood, no signs of sabotage, only silence and cold, and a single working console at the entrance flashing a looping message that said, "Do not open the inner door." They ignored it, of course. They were mercenaries, not diplomats, and orders meant nothing if they did not come with explosives. So they sent in drones, first sleek, spinning hunter cams armed with motion sensors and heat sweeps. The drones moved ahead through the inner door and into the spine of the station, broadcasting live feed to the crew outside. What they saw should have been impossible. There was movement in the corridors, not erratic or wild, but smooth, deliberate, shifting shadows that the drones could not lock onto, forms that seemed to exist only between frames, flickering out of phase with the camera rate, some kind of cloaking, the mercs thought, until the drones began to fall one by one, not destroyed, just turned off mid-flight, crashing to the ground with their last footage, showing a single flash of human eyes in the dark, wide open, unblinking, glowing, not with tech, but with something else, something old and knowing. Then the lights in the station failed and the Scales were locked in airlocks, slammed, sealed systems jammed, their own override codes rejected, and their helmet cams showed nothing but flashing red shadows and the growing sound of footsteps. Not running, not rushing, just walking slowly closer, with no hurry at all, as if they had all the time in the world. They tried to retreat to the outer ring, but one by one they dropped, not from fire, not from blades, just silence. One moment there, then gone. And no one saw it happen, not even their own squadmates, only a soft hiss in the helmet comms before static, and the sudden absence of a name from the roster. Only one of the Scales made it out, a tech specialist named Krell, who barricaded himself inside an emergency pod, sealed it with welding plasma, and waited 3 days in absolute darkness before daring to launch. When he was recovered by the extraction vessel, he had no wounds, no injuries, no trauma, but he never spoke again. And in the playback of his helmet feed in the final seconds before the pod launched, he had turned toward the camera and whispered something under his breath, a phrase the audio team isolated and enhanced and confirmed as human standard. They are still here. After the loss at Grith Station, the Council of Independent Systems declared the humans a priority threat, still unwilling to believe the stories but too concerned to ignore the data. They authorized a full military engagement and sent in the Kern elite, chosen from the most disciplined and advanced forces in the Outer Rim, cybernetically enhanced, armed with the latest drone support and orbital strike arrays. The Kern did not come to investigate, they came to erase. The mission site was a Terran colony on the ice planet. Durrell 9, no distress signals, no known resistance, just an abandoned comm relay and signs of low-level power raw from beneath the surface, standard indicators of an underground facility or bunker, easy to breach, easy to destroy. The Kern landed in full strength, deploying 1,000 troops in layered squad scout units ahead, followed by command structure and support fire team. The ground shook under the boots of their walkers, and gunships hovered overhead, scanning the snow for anything human or otherwise. They entered the colony perimeter, with precision doors cut open, with plasma drills, motion sensors laid in every corridor, and seismic charges planted along all major junctions. They moved into the underground structure one floor at a time, clean, perfect, controlled. The first 6 levels were empty, too empty, no equipment, no debris, no data cores, no human presence, just open hallways and untouched rooms, like the place had been built but never used. Then the lights began to flicker in sequence, not random, not chaotic, but rhythmic, like a pattern, like a pulse, and the temperature dropped far below the planetary baseline. Frost growing on visors. Even inside fully sealed armor systems began to report internal malfunctions, not mechanical but psychological. Soldiers reporting dizziness, auditory hallucinations, flashes of faces in the corners of their HUDs, all matching known profiles of Terran operatives killed in action months ago. The commander of the Kern unit, a being called Varec 6, attempted to initiate orbital cleansing protocol, ordering a total bombardment of the colony and surrounding 10 kilometers, but the orbiting vessel did not respond. The signal was received, acknowledged, and then silence, not static, not interference, just silence, like the ship had never existed and had always existed in that moment. Every member of the Kern unit heard the same sound over internal comms. Not a word, not a voice, just the sound of breath, slow, calm, controlled, as if someone was right behind them and watching. The strike teams tried to regroup, falling back to the surface level, but found the stairwells gone, sealed over with new material, the same alloy used in Terran stealth ships, formed without welds or seams, as if grown from the walls themselves. They began to disappear in 2s and 3s, never in combat, never under fire, always in transition between rooms, between blinks, between moments of thought and awareness, until only Varec 6 remained standing in the central command room, surrounded by frozen bodies, all untouched, no signs of trauma, each one with eyes open and fixed on the same spot where no one stood. He was left alive, not out of mercy, but message. He was given his weapon back and walked to the surface alone, where a single Terran beacon was waiting for him, its message repeating in human standard and a dozen galactic tongues: "Go home, this is your only warning." After Durrell 9, the contracts still came, but no one wanted them, not the warbands, not the independent hunters, not even the bonded assassins who operated without names or homes. The bounty offers tripled, then quadrupled, credits, resources, even territories promised in exchange for a confirmed strike on any Terran special operations team. And still the boards remained silent, eyes lowered, voices low. Even the most hardened killers in the outer verge began to walk out of meetings the moment the word Terran was spoken. Some said it was fear, others said it was instinct, something primal that had survived even in creatures bred on molten worlds and void ships and death rings, something deep in the bones that whispered no when the mind whispered yes, because every story that came back, even when it came from survivors, followed the same pattern: no battles, no shootouts, no final stands, just silence, then missing time, then a return that felt more like an escape than a victory. The rumors spread fast, faster than the truth. One tale told of a sniper team stationed on Varnic Ridge, with a perfect line of sight across a human approach corridor. They were cloaked beneath 6 meters of alloy snow, hidden with signal dampers and psych shields, and still they were picked off one by something they never saw. No muzzle flash, no weapon trail, only a single moment when their scopes caught the reflection of a human eye staring straight back at them through impossible range. Another spoke of a ghost ship found drifting near the Cheros Abyss, a Terran vessel long thought destroyed and marked as lost, reappearing without a signal or distress call, and broadcasting only one thing: a looped message in a calm, soft voice that said, "We remember you," followed by a list of names, all matching former mercenary units known to have taken anti-human contracts, all presumed dead, all names etched into their memorial walls. Still others told of planets turning dark overnight, no signs of conflict, just lights off communications gone, orbital scans showing that everything was intact, but no heat signatures, no movement, as if the entire population had simply laid down and vanished. And when ships were sent to investigate, they found only walls covered in Terran script, with no translation offered. Theories rose and fell. Some claimed the humans had unlocked something ancient. Others believed they had fused with the artificial intelligences they once feared and turned their warfighters into predictive algorithms wearing flesh. Some said the humans had died long ago, and what now walked and stalked and whispered was something that wore the skin of men and remembered war better than peace. But the most accepted belief, the one spoken in corners and coded channels, was that the humans had decided not to win but to disappear into the shadows and wait and strike only when provoked, not as soldiers, but as consequences, as proof that in a galaxy full of death and chaos and noise, there existed one force that would not roar or charge or shout, only act and never be seen. Now, the mercenary boards stay quiet. When humans are involved, entire planets are blacklisted. If even a single Terran signal is confirmed, boots on ground is a death phrase, not a warning. And the phrase special forces is no longer spoken with scorn, but with the careful weight of survivors who understand that these soldiers do not win battles, they end them before they begin. And they do it without showing their faces. The final council of the warborn clans met in silence on the shattered moon of Hyron, 5 old enemies, gathering in secret to discuss the one threat. None of them could fight. There was no debate, only stories. The last envoy of the Volari crawled into the chamber, missing half his limbs, but still breathing long enough to whisper that his entire warfleet had vanished in a system known to be human-held, and all they found when they searched the wreckage were clean hulls, polished bulkheads, and a single boot print left in the center of the command deck. The Krezak Queen Mother spoke next, voice trembling not from weakness, but from the cold echo that still haunted her even after shedding 2 shells. She described a shadow that had stepped through her royal guard during a diplomatic visit, one that should have been impossible given the layers of psychic and physical protection. The entity had not attacked, had not spoken, it had only handed her a small data crystal and vanished when played. The crystal had shown a list of all her operations, all her secret contracts, every betrayal, every lie, followed by the words in Terran Basic, "We are always listening." The stories go deeper, stranger, more like myths than records. Now mercs tell of battlefields that never happened, ships that changed course without knowing why, entire factions that simply forgot their missions and signed peace treaties because something in the dark whispered it would be better for their children this way. No threats, no ultimatums, just a suggestion backed by nothing visible, and yet impossible to refuse. And the strangest part is that no one has seen one up close, not really, not for long enough to survive or understand. There are no prisoners, no interrogations, no footage that lasts more than a few seconds before cutting to black. The only consistent detail across every surviving account is the eyes, human eyes, unblinking, patient, calm, not filled with rage or glory or pride, just watching, measuring, understanding the shape of fear from the inside. So now when the bounty drops and the target is Terran Special Forces, no matter how rich, no matter how desperate, no matter how ready, the answer is always the same: contracts, withdrawn ships, recalled squads, reclassified. Even the bravest walk away, not because they are cowards, but because they have seen enough to know that what hunts in the dark is not hunting for victory or revenge. It is hunting to remind the galaxy of one simple law: you do not provoke the species that mastered war by surviving their own extinction.